Welcome into another episode of Bass Gaming. I'm your host, Ronnie Moore, and I've got a special guest today. I've got the first international angler from Australia to ever win a Bassmaster Elite Series event, Carl Jocumsen. How are you today, man?
I'm good, mate. Good. Thanks for having me on here. It's pretty
No
cool.
problem. No problem. So I'm going to jump into the gameplay, and what's great about this game is they updated it and they knocked out a new download, a new lake, and they put Lake Hartwell, the site of this year's Bassmaster Classic. It's coming up in just a few days from now. And so I'm going to get out on a Hartwell for the very first time, and I'm going to see how this lake will fish, how accurate it is to real life. But one thing I will say before we get started, leaving Green Pond, hey, Green Pond takeoff right there where the classic takeoff is, looks exactly like it does in real life. So very, very realistic the lake is. And I'm just going to run up to the bridge real quick. You know that bridge right close to takeoff, and I'm going to get started. But Carl, what's it like to be in a video game? I got to start off with that. It's probably awesome. I know a lot of fishermen maybe aren't video game players off the get-go, but I know that's got you excited to maybe play a video game when you see yourself in it.
Yeah, no doubt. It's probably, it's every kid's dream, I would say. I would never have imagined in a million years that through bass fishing, I'd end up actually on a game. Really that's like a big accomplishment to me. Like when I think about it, I'm like, imagine when you're younger, how hard do you have to work to end up on a fishing game? Like end up on a video game,
Exactly. Hey, Carl, I'm just going to go ahead, and say the couple episodes I've already done. I did a Toledo Bend, I did Chickamauga, I did a Gunnersville, and I started out with some big fish and a lot of them. And I will say, first cast at Hartwell, I'm already liking this place. I pulled up and wanted to throw a little square bill, and I have it looks like a largemouth. I've got a big largemouth on, and I'm trying not to be too nervous. I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck. I don't really believe in luck, but I know a lot of anglers don't want to catch a fish on their first cast, but I do not mind if it's as big as this one is. If I can land this one, I'll take that start to any tournament. And I did. I got it. Look at that one. We're going to kick it off, Carl. First fish in my limit, 715. It's a trophy. I will take a 715 at Hartwell day one of the Classic all day.
Hartwell, for sure. Every one of those anglers will kill for that fish during the Classic.
That is, and it means a little bit more in the Classic. I will say that the Bassmaster Classic, for those who are tuning in and watching and wonder what the difference in the Classic and a regular Bassmaster Elite Series event, the Elite Series is the top level. Yeah. But man, the Bassmaster Classic is a whole nother deal. It is a dream to pursue. And for you, that I feel like that was one of the main driving points for you to even come from Australia and pursue this was the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the images and the dream and the things you see as a kid where, the Elite Series is unbelievable and it's a dream as well. But it's like the stepping foot onto that Classic stage is what pushes you through the obstacles that it takes to get here. So without seeing those crowds, without the drive-through lane, without all that, you just wouldn't have that imagination to be like, no, I have to keep going because that's where I want to be.
Yeah, I'm even sporting the Bassmaster Classic shirt. I got it. We're all in that mindset, even though the Elite Series season just started. And so, Carl, this has been a decade journey for you to come from Australia. It probably even more, the logistics on getting started prior to actually making it here. But for you, you're starting to gain a little bit of consistency. That's been the biggest thing. You won an event in 2019, and we've seen you at your highest ability with top tens, but it's also very hard. A lot of these lakes are different, and the times of the years, the weather that we have, they're completely different from practice. And so how hard is it for you to maybe gain that consistency that it takes to maybe make the Bassmaster Classic?
Yeah, that's been my little thorn, in my side. If I get consistent conditions and I get tough conditions, I'm gonna do well. That's why I do well when we get a later season that pushes into the fall, because we tend to get consistent conditions from practice through the tournament, and it's hard and it's tough and it's hot and it's nasty. I like all of those adversities. It seems to put me in advantage when you get beautiful sunny conditions, or say you get nasty rain through practice, and then it comes into beautiful conditions. That's where like it throws out. Last year for me, it was beautiful, awesome conditions through practice, turning into like 10 inches of rain. And that's just the things that I don't have experience with. I went back to the areas where I caught them, tried to figure it out. Okay, now they're not here. I've got to move. 90% of the other anglers just went to where those fish are going to be, because they know, they've been there, they've seen it, had the experience. That's the difference that I'm trying to catch up on. And 15 and 16, I was in the 90s in Angler of the Year. And then when I was in the other tour, I was like right under making the championship. And then now I'm like 60th, then I'm 50th. Then in the last event, I can make the classic and I'm just out. So like, I just haven't had, the win was a breakthrough year for me. This is what got me to buy our place that we have now in Chattanooga, and it really excelled my career. But I'm so looking forward to just finding that consistency where I can creep inside and get in that classic for the first time and many times after that.
Well, you just mentioned those anglers seem to be skilled enough to know where to go. Well, I just moved from my initial spot, and I'm going to go from the middle of the bridge, riprap. I'm going to go over to the other edge of the bridge, and I hooked up with a 7-pound, 10-ouncer, my second fish of the day. Carl, I'm on pace. I will break every classic record right now if I can catch a limit worth of 7-pounders. But this is very cool and very realistic. And one thing that anglers don't realize is, or fans don't realize, is there are hundreds and thousands of anglers across the country that want to be in the Bassmaster Classic, and every year it's only 50. It's only 50 to 55 anglers. And so you were talking about that being so close, and it's not like you can't have a bad tournament anymore. You can't have a bad day anymore. You can't have a bad hour anymore on the Elite Series. Otherwise, your whole season could be doomed. And so it comes down to almost every decision. Do you kind of take an inventory at the end of each day of competition or practice and be like, did I make, which decisions worked out well, which decisions didn't, so that you can then adjust, the next days?
Oh, 100%. That's what it's all about. It's learning each and every step. You're getting better and better every day. Like, one of the biggest disappointments a lot when you miss the cut for me is that there's 50 guys getting another day of on the water and another day of experience. All of those days add up, because you've got to continually adjust and make those adjustments. And after every tournament, you look back, hindsight's unbelievable. You're like, man, I should have just done that, but it could have worked out. Well, I did too, but it just, it's all decision making. I feel like I can fish as good as anyone with about any technique. I've really worked on all of those things, and all of them can do all of those things. Now it's like, it's decisions. It's like, what area of the lake do you end up at? How did you get there? How did you dial them in using your electronics? But Florida, it's all about area. And when I look back, the boats I saw during the two events, none of them made the cut. And I'm like, man, I was in areas that no one made it anyway. But then when you looked at the groups, you're like, all of those guys caught them, and they were all in certain areas of the lake. And that's Florida for you.
And that's a lot of, pre-knowledge, knowing where fish will get in certain regions, and then knowing, hey, if it's cold in Florida, this is where they're going to be, or, they're not going to be as aggressive. And so that is very interesting that you note that I was fishing around a lot of people that didn't make the cut. And that's something difficult to figure out and manage. But for you've got a mantra, and it's on your hoodie right there, FMH, which is Fear My Heart. And one awesome thing I'm going to say is that in our update on Dovetail with the new packs that you can unlock and purchase and play with, not only is Lake Hartwell a lake that you can fish on, but they have boat wraps. We can have a Carl Jocumsen Fear My Heart boat wrap. How cool is that? Not only to be in a video game, like I mentioned, to be seemingly in the industry the way you want to be, and then also now you're representing a video game with a phrase that has meant so much to you over your. Explain Fear My Heart a little bit.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that. That's probably one of the most exciting things. When I saw them do that for me on the game, I'm like, holy, that's cool, because they had the carpet decal, like it looked exactly the American Australian flag, all of that stuff. So yeah, the Fear My Heart is what got me here. It's my mantra that, I came up with in about 2014, 13. And it had to do with, kind of the Navy SEAL type thing, but also just getting over that I don't have the experience. I don't have the skill set. I don't have all of these things that a lot of these guys have, but I got the heart. And if you've got heart, I feel like that makes up all of that big gap. And that's what it did. And when I ran off that and just said, no, I've got what it takes and pushed through, I made it and became the first Australian to make it to the Bassmaster Elite Series. And that's what it takes. It takes heart to push through those tough times and realize like that you can do it no matter how sort of impossible it looks in front of you.
Well, you're wearing off on me, your mantra and your style right now, because I just left for my second spot and I decided to put on a big swim bait in honor of Carl in this episode. And at Hartwell, man, I love fishing docks in real life. That is one of my favorite things to do is fish docks. I know you like fishing docks, and that is a good structure for folks in the game. If you want to see if it's realistic or not, I pulled up on my first dock of the day and I said, I'm going to throw a big bait, my first cast, to see if I can attract one. And boy, did I come past a big largemouth, and it reacted the way I wanted to and chased it down. And I just landed it. And Carl, I'm telling you, it is another 7-pounder, 7 pounds, 5 ounces. I am on pace for the classic record. That is 3 7-pounders to start the day. I will take that. And so this is incredible. And like I said, this is the first time I've ever played the Lake Hartwell map. Because it is brand new in one of the updates that Dovetail has put out. And so, yeah, you mentioned that perseverance, that fear my heart mentality, that is what it takes to be at the top level. I mean, you have to have there. You're not on a team. Yes, Kayla, your wife, is a part of your team. But when you're out there, it's just you, it's just like a golfer that's by himself or a race car driver that's in the car by himself. You have to have that motivation on your own within you to succeed. You have to push yourself. And so some guys are self-motivated maybe by money, doing well, and that money helps everybody. Obviously financially, that win you had helps you in a lot of different ways. Like you said, it went towards purchasing the house you guys have, but also it's just the pride factor of, hey, money only lasts a little while. Trophies can last forever, most likely. And kind of that success and learning every day. You're a guy who loves to learn every single day.
Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest driving forces is just getting better, learn and becoming a better person, better angler. Along the way, the journey is just such a huge part. It takes so long, and there's so many ups and downs through this sport that you better enjoy the journey along the way, because there's a lot of losses in between that win. And so if you're not enjoying that whole progression up to that, then you're going to live a long time of like being frustrated and upset. It's a tough sport. It's a sport that you come in and, man, behind that weigh in, there's 25 to 30 pound bags and you've got 10 pounds. It's a tough one to get through, but you got to have a short memory and be like, well, I'm just going to get them at the next one. I'm going to come away from this. And that's been, the biggest key is like, I've just surpassed a lot of people that were much better positioned than me, better anglers than me, had more opportunities, but they gave up because it got tough. And then I've just chipped away. And, I read something there the other day that it's like, it takes 20 years to be successful. And like, that's what it's taken for me. It's like 20-year progression to get to where I'm sitting now. And then you're not also done. It's the work still starts and it never stops. So you continually, grinding, which it's what I love about it.
That is very cool. And hey, just like in the last episode I did with Jeff Gustafson, I'm not a huge electronics guy in real life, but in this game, if you're driving down the lake and your electronics say there's a couple fish here, you better stop and give it a shot. And so I just had to stop in the middle of this creek to cast my swim bait out because I saw some fish on the graph. Now it's not as easy as that. You got to trick them. And so that's the one thing in fishing, the variables that you guys have to deal with. You could be in the right area throwing the wrong bait. You could be in the wrong area throwing the right bait. You could be doing it at the wrong time of day. And those are all the calculated decisions. And really for young fans tuning in that want to know how to be a pro or what they need to learn along the way, that is the deal. It's time on the water. Like you said, missing those day 3 cuts at times, that's just one more day. Not only is it freeing because you've made a check and you made the cut,
Yeah.
but it is another day to learn. And these guys get to do that. And the more days you fish, most likely the better you're going to get. And so right now I'm throwing the big swim bait, and I may have to switch up because I'm seeing fish, but they're not biting. So I'm going to go ahead and switch up to a smaller swim bait, maybe
Definitely
vary the
realistic
size.
then.
Yeah. Hey, it is very realistic on like,
What
you
happens?
could have that cast and I could see all the big ones. And if they don't want it, they won't bite
Yeah.
it. But speak to that a little bit, the variables portion of it. There is so much that goes into this. It's not just casting a bobber out there and waiting. It is high intensity. Every minute it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the most frustrating one of all is you can be in the right winning area at the wrong time. And when I say the wrong time, you could be there 5 minutes early, left 5 minutes late, any of those little, and someone can come in there and they can fire up, and it can be one of the most frustrating things to deal with. And that all comes with experiences, like knowing what's there, what the fish are there, and then looking at moon phases, bite times, peak bite times, the way the weather's setting up. Is it changing through the day, and making like those adjustments? A lot of it is just, do I stay or do I go? They're the ones, okay, these aren't going to bite. I've got to jump on pad and make a total shift. And, you know, one of my mistakes for Harris chain and St. John's was like, I tried to grind them out, and those fish just weren't there to be caught. They weren't biting. And I stayed and stayed and stayed for those peak bite times, and then realized like these fish have just scattered, they've moved. And then it's not until like the last hour that you're like, uh-oh. And then it's like panic time, and you've got to like try and scramble. So the best anglers in the world make better decisions faster. That's it. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I just made my third bait change on this one spot before I gave up and decided to leave, like you were talking about, just throwing it in. And it was a striper. I caught a white bass, or as some refer to as a striper. Yep. Not too bad, and it's not the species that I necessarily target on a day-to-day, but in this game they're very fun. I thought it was a giant. It's just a 5-pounder. They just fight hard, Carl. But for you, you got some good schedule coming up. You've got great success at Santee Cooper in the fall. It'll be different in the spring, obviously, but it kind of sets up for your style a little bit more. And then you have one at Lake Chickamauga, which is not far from your home, the closest lake that we'll have, you know, in the world to your house, other than the pond beside your house. I don't know. We could maybe have an elite series, maybe a smaller top 10 fish there or something. But the next two events after the classic, Santee Cooper and Lake Chickamauga, that is something that is probably going to be one that you have circled on the calendar.
Yeah, and for sure, you know, definitely want some redemption at Santee. Got good feelings from that. That was one of the funnest tournaments ever. Going back and forth with Brandon on that one and just catching giants like that. And the fishing is going to be probably 1,000 times better, which, you know, is concerning in one side because everyone's going to catch them. Again, that's why I do well. I can grind out those tough ones, but I'm also excited for it because I have to get better at slugfest type of. So like this is a chance to get better at that, you know. So excited for Santee probably over all of them. Chickamauga, funnily enough, you know, it's my favorite lake. It's why I moved here, but also haven't got to spend as much time as I'd like here. But I've caught my PB here, 10-10 on a big glide. I've caught a lot of 9 and 8 pounders, lost some absolute giants, and just enjoy living. I literally live 15 minutes from the middle of the lake. So every chance I've got since we moved here in 2019, I'm down there fishing a different part of the lake and trying to learn it as best I can.
That's the one thing that, hey, your fishing time maybe has been cut down a little bit, welcoming a brand new baby into the family. And that is something that's super, super cool. But for you, now you have, you don't just have 2 mouths to feed, you have 3 mouths to feed. And so you obviously take a lot of pride in your work, but how cool is that to be able to have your wife and child now come to the events and cheer you on? Like, it's probably the cutest thing in the world, having a mini Fear My Heart jersey on your child at the tournaments. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can't even really explain it. Would have never imagined the feeling that I have through it. It's another level of how you feel about life and the meaning of all of what you're doing. It just all makes sense. You have a part of you, and like literally I can not get things done because I just want to stare at her. She's just so beautiful. And then, coming in, I was frustrated in a couple of the days. I'm like, had a tough day, came in, and River's there in my little jersey with Kayla, and I'm like,
nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely takes away the bad things, and it makes you realize all the blessings that you actually have.
Yeah, I will say, to segue to the gameplay, I am making some of the best decisions I could make. I was throwing a small swim bait on a 1/2 ounce weight, and I was just digging in the dirt. I could not get it up off the bottom. So I switched to 1/4 ounce. First cast, switching to the 1/4 ounce, I catch, it's a non-bass, it's a perch, but I will take the perch because, hey, it was a good adjustment. And I'm going to continue to throw this around. What's great, Carl, I've already caught fish on a square bill. I've caught it on a big swim bait. I just caught that one on a small swim bait. And then I also caught one on a topwater. What is very cool is I saw some fish busting, literally busting on the game. And I said, I'm going to throw a topwater out there like I would in real life. And I caught the fish that was busting. So this is a very, for folks who wonder how many hours it takes to develop a game like this, I can't imagine how many hours, because it is seamless right now. And cast after cast, I can feel confident that the fish are there based on my graph readout. And then also the bait adjustments are there. So this is very, very cool. This is something that, like you said, you hadn't played a lot of video games, but you're going to get to play some video games at the Classic this year. You're going to get to play this game. Now, question, Are you going to pick Hank Cherry to play as because it's the Bassmaster Classic week, or are you going to pick yourself? That's the thing when you're picking a character.
Yeah, I'll have to throw myself in there, I guess. You can't not pick yourself, but yeah, I might pick another angler that's actually in the Classic to make it as realistic as I can. But I'm going to be there days 1, 2, and 3 working in the expo, and the guys from Dovetail Games are going to be there with the game set up, and I'm going to be playing it and get to play other people, playing the game, play myself, as well as some of the anglers in the Classic. So it's going to be pretty cool.
I told all the guys from Dovetail that if they're not catching them good enough during the Bassmaster live broadcast, I said, don't make me walk over from my desk and I'll have to swap with y'all. Y'all can be the broadcaster and I'll be the gamer, because we gotta represent well. And they laughed. But this is a very cool thing. We've mentioned it, to be a part of this and to have insight into a game. That's like if Tom Brady was asked how Madden was developed, or asked how the look and the feel of the football game is developed. And so for you guys to be selected to do that is very cool, especially guys like Scott Martin. You've probably known him for most of your life, and he's got a lot of great accomplishments. And recently, can you speak to, Hank Cherry has been a huge supporter of you, just because of your journey and just because of your determination. And to see his success the last few years in the Classic, can you just imagine that feeling? I like get chill bumps right now thinking about what it would be like to win the Classic.
Yeah.
And to win 2 in a row.
Yeah.
That is an unreal feeling.
Well, Hank, just like he doesn't get enough credit for like how close he had came in the past as well. Like he had won a lot, and he'd also, like, that fish he lost at Grand, that kind
2013.
Gets not enough views, because you can see that how devastating that loss was, but then you blink and now he's won 2 back-to-back. You're like, that's what it takes. Like, he kept his head down, didn't let that affect him, and then became 2-time Classic champion. Like, that is crazy. Like, he was cast away, 1 fish away from winning that. But what I like about that is it showed that from something very devastating, and that probably he thought that he'd never get back, because he chose not to quit, he turned it all around. And now he'd look back and be like, man, that was the best thing that ever happened, because it pushed me to become better, or make adjustments, or whatever he did. He did something, because he's that jerk bait and everything that he uses. He's an animal with it. And, it all comes from those adversities in the past.
And it's all about timing in life as well. You just, like you said, you never give up, and you don't know if the next day is your time, if the next hour is your time. But like the mantra in fishing is, if you're going to win, you can't make it happen, and you can't stop it from happening. It's just going to happen if you're in the right position. But I wanted to also segue when it comes to you. One thing that you take a lot of pride in is our lakes and cleaning them up, and that's something that you started. You did it last year on your own with your wife at Lake Gunnersville, and
Yep.
now every single Bassmaster Elite Series event for 2022, for the folks who don't make the cut, which I would love to see you not involved in this the
Yeah.
next couple events, but for those who don't make the cut, they go and they pick up trash around the lake, whether it's out in a boat or from the shore, and clean up the lakes that truly, this is a part of the conservation program that makes Bassmaster conservation even stronger. Not only fish conservation, but the actual resource like the lake. And I'm changing spots right now, but we'll get back to that in just a second. I pulled up, I stopped, and I did a U-turn because I just saw a bunch of fish on the graph right here in front of this dock. So I'm feeling like I'm going to catch one, but I'm going to throw your big swim bait out to see if I can catch another 6 or 7 pounder maybe. But what I was saying about that was your cleanup efforts. That just goes, I mean, that just shows your pride for the sport, not just for selfish reasons, but because you love bass fishing and you love the opportunity you've been given.
Yeah, I've actually it's something that I've had ever since I was a kid. My dad messaged on one of the posts and he said, that you've been doing that since you were 5 years old. We would go camping at Fraser Island, and if someone left a piece of litter on the ground or did anything out of place when I was a little kid, like I was on them. And so I've just always been like that. And, I've seen it as a problem. I have so much pride in, like, when I'm fishing around those bridges. Gunnersville's been so good to me, and I'm like, man, look at this bank here. I want it to be nice. And I didn't think anything of it at the start when Kayla got on. And I pick up trash all the time, just in my boat when I see it. But we sort of just did a few hours, and the difference I saw that we made in not only the areas and how much trash we picked up, but the mentality switch from people that saw us picking it up, and also when we posted it, how many people saw it as a problem, wanted to get involved. I'm like, this is something that we can make bigger and better and make an actual difference at some of these lakes. So it's been great that Bassmaster's been getting behind it, and we're just getting more and more people, more elites involved, and continue to grow it. And that's what's cool. I like that we come to these lakes, and the locals that live there for their whole life know that the fish have almost 100% survival rate and go back into the water for them to catch for the rest of the year. And we're leaving the place better than what we found it.
Yeah, I kind of look at it every Saturday during Elite Series events. When I'm broadcasting, I will see it online and see your guys' efforts. And it makes me feel very prideful that these are high character anglers on the Elite Series, that these are guys that aren't all about me, and that they want to make it better. And so it was very cool, especially because you guys are from different backgrounds. And Carl, I was correct. I landed on this spot. There were fish here. I caught a big striper first off, and then I said I'm going to try the other side of the dock, and I just caught a 615 largemouth. So now I've got 3 7s. I've got a 211 spotted bass, and I've got a 615 largemouth. So if I call that 211, this will maybe be the best day of fishing at Lake Hartwell ever, and I'll catch a 30-pound bag. But it's high character guys, and it's also people from different backgrounds. I saw that you had a bunch of Japanese anglers, our Japanese Elite Series pros that didn't make the cut, that they were out there with you as well. What is that like, communicating with brand new guys that maybe don't know the language as well? They probably don't know your accent as well on certain phrases that you use, but the love of bass fishing translates through all.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that I saw, and it give the trash pickup thing. I guess you can see who you start to see the people that are thinking about it as well, and they've seen it as a problem in their country. So I got to talk to Matty Wong. He's American but lives in
Hawaii, in California.
It's different, and he has seen it a problem there and has made cleanup efforts in Hawaii, in California, on the beaches. And then talking to the Japanese anglers, talking to Kenta, he was saying that it's a big problem in Japan. And I was like, I didn't think that. I was like, Japan's super clean. And he's like, no, it's becoming a problem. And it's something that they are working super hard to try and combat. And I've seen the same thing in Australia. So we have a Clean Up Australia Day. It's a big day that just once a year, but this is something that I think we can turn into, something that just happens all the time. That's what it needs to be.
Yeah, a lot of the Japanese anglers grew up bank fishing. I mean, we bank fish in general in America, but a lot of it is from boats as well. And so I could see how that could become a problem if you have a generation that maybe doesn't take pride in keeping, the waterways clean from when you're walking to them. But for you, you've had a lot of highs. I have a high right here. I just caught a giant, my biggest striper of the day, a 14-pound, 10-ounce striper. That is what Hartwell is known for as well. Yeah. Not only good bass, but a huge striper. But for you, what are your future plans? Obviously, you've got the Elite Series the rest of the season, and you're going to do just fine when it comes to the points race. No doubt about that you're going to turn it around, especially with the lakes we have coming up. A couple of the places you have a lot more experience on. And Florida in general is tough. And those are the two events to start out. We saw some guys who live in Florida finish in the 80s and 90s. And you're like, you guys are supposed to know it better than anyone. So Florida is not easy. You've got a great schedule coming up the rest of the season. But where can fans connect to you throughout the year? If they want to come to an event, you obviously make the time, not only for cleanups, but you make the time for all the fans as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, when I'm at the lakes, when I'm at the Bramp, when I'm after weigh-in, make sure you come and say g'day. I've usually got some like Fear My Heart bands with me, and a bit of stuff like that. So make sure you come up. Happy to sign anything. We've got some signature cards. And then if you want to follow me, Instagram, Facebook, my YouTube channel. I'm self-filming a lot of my stuff this year for the Bassmaster, and then we're just getting it edited up now. So hopefully we put together some good content on YouTube. And just follow me. It's Carl Jocumsen on almost all the platforms. You can go to my website, and then you can also get apparel, Fear My Heart stuff off fearmyheart.com. And so we have a full website there with different clothes from kids, ladies to men's stuff. So check it out.
And you can also tag him in all of your screenshots on Dovetail when you're playing him as a character and you catch it. Yes, that is very cool.
I've been getting tons of that. And my cousin in Australia, it was funny. He was sending me pictures of them catching him in Australia, using me, and his son looked at him one day. They were driving. He's shaking his head, and Chris was like, "What?" And he's like, "I can't believe Carl's on a fishing game because I'm just I'm his cousin." So they were just like, "That's crazy." It was pretty cool to hear that.
I've been a part of that Carl Jocumsen fan page group that all the crazy Australians are in, and they follow it avidly. So tell me, what's the time zone difference? You're around Eastern time zone and Central time zone. What kind of time difference is it? If it's noon, let's just say it's noon in America, what time is it in Australia for them to be watching?
Right now, so it's about 10 o'clock, and it's nearly 1 a.m. in Australia in the morning. So but they're actually ahead. So they're going to be like, when they wake up, it'll be tomorrow here, which it's crazy when you fly back and forward. Like when you fly from there to here, you'll leave like 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, you land 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. Like you don't lose any.
That's cool.
So it's pretty cool. Well, actually that's going backwards. When you go this way, you lose like a couple days because they're already day ahead, and it's wild. But the jet lag and all of that make it pretty weird to 16, 18 hours in a plane flying. So it's crazy. But this and the game and the internet and Bassmaster Live have just brought us cool together,
That is super cool to see the fan bases grow and cheer you on throughout the process. And I did land another one. I landed a 6 even to make a call. So I have got a great 5 fish limit. I think I've got a big striper on right now as one of my last fish probably of this episode. But Carl, being a professional fisherman, where did that strive from? I mean, you guys have a lot of different sports in Australia. I think this is actually a big walleye, not a big striper. It looks like a big walleye actually while it's fighting out on the surface. You guys have a lot of sports in Australia. What drew you to the outdoors? Obviously, you like the trash cleanup. You said that when you would go camping and whatnot. But what made you do fishing? Because I mean, it's not as accessible as a professional sport there.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pursue and look up to professional fishing when you don't necessarily have I guess, an influence there. But I mean, then you got to come all the way over here to make it happen.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. That's how it is in Australia with all our sports. I just love sports in general. I played rugby, tennis, like anything you can imagine. I was a part of, just competitive. I liked, being active, but fishing was just that thing that I always went back to. Like I was psycho on it, riding my bike for hours to get to a lake with a fishing rod and a backpack. Family would be at the beach, all playing, doing sports. I'm just standing there with a fishing rod for hours and hours on edge, and had just ridiculous patience. And so I always came back to that, or that never really left me, and it just got stronger and stronger. And then 8 Australian bass tournaments started up, tournament series in the year 2000, and I got to go and watch that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's something I want to be a part of. I think I was probably 12, 13, and then a couple of years later I fished my first event, and that was the end of me. Like, I fished my first event, I got big bass, I won $500. I think I was 15 years old, and that was it. I said, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, and it somehow brought me to America, which is just absolutely insane.
That is incredible. Carl, I'm going to end it on that walleye. It was a 12+ pounder. I just pulled back into Green Pond Landing. Actually, the actual boat ramp, it looks exactly like the one that the classic anglers will launch from this coming week for the Bassmaster Classic at Lake Hartwell. Carl, you're an inspiration to so many. You mentioned it. You were inspired to come do this, and you have led a path of multiple Australians coming to the United States, multiple people, even from South Africa and other countries that have, hey, I want to do exactly what Carl's doing, and he has set a great example. So we appreciate you being a great advocate for the sport. It's super cool to see you in a video game and to see the Fear My Heart mantra, something that you've just held so tight to your motto all this time. And I really look forward to, for one, I can't wait to see you at the Classic. And then for two, I can't wait to see you in the next episode of the video game when some people are playing as you as a character.
That's going to be awesome. Appreciate it, mate.
Awesome. Carl Jocumsen, my guest today, Australian, the first Bassmaster Elite Series champion from Australia. And he's going to be a Classic qualifier very soon. So, Carl, appreciate you joining us, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, mate. See ya.